Welcome to People and Profit. I'm Kate Moody. Today, we're bringing you a special show from the 10th annual VivaTech Festival in Paris. It's Europe's largest gathering focused on startups, innovation, and technology. Today, we're going to be delving into the universe of quantum computing. But just what is a quantum computer? I got to tour the chandelier at the IBM stand here at VivaTech. Take a look.
We are very happy to showcase the inside of a real quantum computing system. This is the French chandelier. It is the inside of what we call a dilution refrigerator. And you will go from top to cold, but not that cold, 4 Kelvin, to in the bottom, different layer to the very, let's say, coldest place on Earth is 0.15 millikelvin. Nothing colder than that. It's coldest than the dark face on the moon. And all this kind you see, the componentry, is how we will send signal and manage the quantum chip itself, which is in the gray box in the very low.
Our guest today is Dr. Jerry Chow, IBM Fellow and Chief Technology Officer for Quantum-Centric Supercomputing at IBM Research. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, give us a little bit of a beginner's guide. What is quantum computing?
Yeah, so really the idea of quantum computing is that we're using an entirely different math to do computation. If you think about regular computers, digital computers, we've heard about bits, zeros and ones. And that's really the language of the math that really goes into all the computing that we know today, even the most advanced AI techniques that we use. But quantum computing really relies on the fundamental laws of quantum mechanics with its physics principles, where you have qubits instead of bits, and these qubits can behave in strange ways. They follow this different set of math, and what it does is it really opens up an entirely new area of applications and solutions to problems beyond which we could solve with traditional regular bit-based computers.
What kind of real-life applications are there for quantum computing? What industries in particular could really stand to benefit?
Yeah, so really, it comes down to some of these types of problems where we know our best computers today fail and struggle. Things like simulating chemistry, which has a lot of application towards better drugs, better materials, things like improving fertilizer generation. All these things that can actually matter for materials are fundamentally very challenging for regular computers because of the complexity of the molecular structure. If you think about all the electrons in materials that matter, it becomes very, very difficult to solve with the regular computer. But you can use a quantum computer to actually handle that same kind of natural element of a material.
It's a technology that still feels quite niche for a lot of people. Is it really going to revolutionize the way that we live and work and problem solve?
Yeah, so I mean, one way to think about it really is that we rely on computing so much, right? And we've seen an evolution of computing even in the lives that we're living in today with how things have gone into this new agentic AI era. But a lot of that comes down to a fundamental shift of the underlying infrastructure. We went from CPUs to now GPUs, graphical processing units, that really have advanced capabilities that we can do with AI. And we expect the same to happen with QPUs, or quantum processing units, where we're going to be able to solve way more things that are going to matter for things like drug discovery or things like optimization, or in areas where we don't necessarily care that a quantum computer is behind it, but it's going to have been able to solve more.
Artificial intelligence is sort of dominating a lot of the discussion when it comes to the industry right now. Where's the intersection of AI and quantum computing?
Yeah, that's a question that's really often coming up. How does AI and quantum intersect? One big piece of it is that a lot of AI is being used to help with making our quantum computers better. It help find better algorithms that leverage our quantum computers. And a lot of it is also coming down to how we pair some of the infrastructure together. Of course, we know there's a lot of these big data centers being built that are based off of GPU technology. But we really have this vision for what we call quantum-centric supercomputing, where the supercomputers of tomorrow are going to combine the best CPUs, the best GPUs, and the best QPUs. And so the best way to actually solve problems is going to come down to how do you break it down to best use the computers to solve the different parts of that problem.
Can quantum computing make money?
So I think there's an really exciting economic perspective for how quantum computers can really make money. There are independent studies that are forecasting that it has the potential for certainly hundreds of billions of dollars to even potentially trillions of dollars of economic impact. And a big reason is because of the underlying potential applications are so broad and so relevant to society. We talked a little bit about drug discovery, we talked a little about molecular structure. That's behind many, many different kinds of key industries, pharmaceuticals and so forth. When we talk about the financial sector, we talk about things like optimization, portfolio optimization, risk management. Again, very, very challenging problems with a lot of economic value that quantum computers have the potential to solve.
Are there geopolitical tensions or pressures in the same way that we're seeing in other parts of the tech industry, in AI in particular, this sort of competition between countries?
There's certainly always a bit of a competition, right? Especially with the technologies such as quantum. And certainly a big part of that is maintaining a lead for what we can deliver in terms of the capabilities that we're building from a technology perspective. But also I think a big part of really leveraging it as a computational platform is making sure that users are able to find the algorithms to use it. One thing we're certainly very proud of, we've been hosting quantum computers on the cloud for 10 years now, and openly available for people to use to actually learn how to use quantum computers and figure out what they can do with them.
Explain what that means. What is hosting a quantum computer on the cloud? How does it work?
Yeah, so 10 years ago, we actually placed a 5-qubit quantum processor on the cloud. Before that, you basically had to be a physicist. You had to know really academic collaborator or something to actually go and do the physics to study how to use a quantum processor. But by placing it on the cloud, we actually drove the industry to develop a lot of the computational platforms. Think about the software layers that you need to actually program a computer. Well, we started really launching that so that people can develop the techniques to actually program a quantum computer and start developing even applications that sit on top.
Now, quantum computers use a different kind of chip than a classical computer, let's say. Is your business, though, facing the same kind of pressures when it comes to accessing the raw materials, the supply chain pressures that other companies are seeing?
Yeah, so the quantum chips that we build, there's based on using a lot of the silicon fabrication techniques that are certainly behind a lot of the semiconductor industry, but we're also using a different set of materials that are superconducting. That means that they perform in different ways at low temperatures. That's what unlocks the quantum behavior of our devices. We haven't had as many of these supply chain issues there, but one main thing that we've actually been doing is to secure our supply chain of chips for IBM. One joint venture we announced recently with the Department of Commerce was a pure play quantum wafer foundry called Enderon. And a big part of that is to help us secure the production and manufacturing of these chips for the years to come.
What does quantum computing mean for data privacy?
It still remains to be seen what kind of personal data is going to enter, right, in terms of the types of problems that are going to be solved using quantum. But I would say that I look there more for how does data privacy evolve with AI and the tools that we're building there, and then quantum will basically tag along with it.
Like a lot of emerging and very powerful technology, in the wrong hands, presumably this is something that could be quite dangerous. What kind of safeguards are being rolled out as you start bringing the technology into perhaps slightly more mainstream use?
Yeah, so I mean, I think a big part of where the discussion goes with quantum computers really are that, there's this threat of potentially breaking encryption, right? There's a well-known algorithm called Shor's algorithm that says you can really break the encryption that's behind a lot of commerce and everything. But a big part of how to get around that is to drive quantum safe encryption standards well ahead of time. And you're already seeing a lot of governments and countries and even enterprises start to adopt some of these quantum safe protocols where we know that quantum computers aren't able to actually attack those protocols.
Talk to me a little bit about what you're using quantum for right now. When you go back to your office, what's it going to be used for?
Yeah, so we're in this really exciting phase where not so long ago we were still just studying these devices at the few qubit level. Now we're at over 100 qubits, and they're able to actually do really interesting science that push the boundaries of what you can compute. So we're actually working with a number of national labs. We're working with the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio to study very complex molecular structures. Recently, they published a paper that actually showed the ability to simulate a 12,000 atom protein, right? So something that's actually biologically relevant, but they were able to break it down into a size that they could actually study using a quantum computing workflow.
And what about the next milestones, let's say short and medium term? Give us an idea.
Yeah, so we're on this path right now where we're going to demonstrate what's called quantum advantage, where a quantum computer outperforms a classical computer, either cheaper, faster, more accurate for some problem. And that's going to really help continue to spur this flywheel effect, right? Where people are using these machines to continue to show real advantage, real applications. That's really the near-term kind of milestones that what we call quantum is real is happening. Then as we get a few years further, in 2029, we want to deliver the first fault-tolerant quantum computer. And so what this is really is a quantum computer that performs at a level where a lot of the errors are very low and we can perform a very large computation. That's where a lot of the provable applications of quantum computers that people have long theorized can happen are going to happen using these machines.
Talk to me about the cooperation that you need between the private and public sector for this kind of technology to really reach its full potential.
So it's really important to have collaboration across private, public, national laboratories, academia, because there's a lot of wealth of knowledge that happens here, right? Especially right now where we are with these machines, we're kind of in this engineering phase, but we really need to rely on a lot of the people who know how to use advanced computation to push the boundaries of algorithms and applications. If you think back to GPUs, when they first emerged, people were just using them for gaming. But then in the hands of the right scientific users like the national laboratories, they found out, wow, they could use it for all these applications of simulating very hard molecules or to use them to do all the craze that's gone into LLMs today, right? And so we're looking for that same kind of impact where scientific discovery helps fuel the applications and a lot of the overarching applications that use the technology underlying.
Jerry Chow from IBM, thank you so much for joining us on People and Profit today.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching. Stay tuned to France 24.